Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to yet another episode of Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you for joining me. This is episode 43 of Hockey on the Spot, just coming off of episode 42 just a few minutes ago. This will be my second episode of the day, and also my last episode of the day. In our last episode, we talked about Group B of our 2014 Winter Olympic preview in Sochi. Now we are going to talk about Group C, but before we get into that, something I did forget to mention in the last video about Team Canada. This really doesn't have to do with anything, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. They have new uniforms this year. And let me tell you something right now. Those new uniforms are going to be the absolute laughingstock of the tournament. I didn't think any uniform could get any worse than Team USA's new uniforms, but man was I wrong. Team Canada, a uniform that got released exactly 1 month early, does not look good at all. I do not like the new uniforms, and not a lot of people do. If anybody likes their new uniforms, then good for them. But most people do not like them, including me. I think they are absolutely disgusting, and they will be the laughing stock of the tournament. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Now let's continue with our Olympics preview with the final group, Group C, the group of the Czech Republic, Sweden, Switzerland, and Latvia. Starting with the bottom team, the underdog of the division, Latvia. Latvia has not been a good Olympic team for many, many years. This is a team that is out to try to replicate the style of Team Russia, and therefore they have developed somewhat of a rivalry with Team Russia, although they can never ever win against Russia or anybody else for that matter. This is another team that probably will not win a single game. They're going to finish last place in Group C, and potentially they could actually finish with a worse record than Norway. It's very possible. But they will not finish with a worse record than Slovenia. Slovenia will be worse than them. Then between them and Norway, though, that'll be in question. They really do not have a lot of guys on this team that you would really know. The only players that I know that will be sure to be there are Zemgus Girgensons, a top pick of the Buffalo Sabres, 14th overall pick of 2012. He should be there and be their top performer. And Theodore Bluger, a second-round pick of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who has a promising future as an NHL player. He's a Latvian. He'll most likely be there and also be a big contributor. But another guy who could potentially be there that many people would probably not remember, guys like Oskars Bartulis, he could most likely be there. And yeah, so those will probably be the only, and those will really be the only significant players though. There's really nobody else on this Latvian team who is really well known and who's really going to make an impact. This is by no means a medal team, and they are not going to be going far in this tournament. With that being said, we now move on to Team Switzerland. Switzerland has been a really interesting story in the recent years. This is a team that used to be a member of the underdog group, but now, over the recent years, their hockey has really developed, and they're slowly but surely becoming one of the strongest hockey countries. And they really showed it at the Worlds this year when they won the silver medal. They lost to Sweden in the gold medal game, but they defeated the United States, sending them to the bronze medal game. But for Switzerland to win the silver medal over countries like Canada, the U.S., Russia, that is really impressive. This is a team that's really developing nicely. They're really developing themselves into an elite, and that Big Seven is now becoming a Big Eight. And they do have a lot of guys this particular year they do have a lot of good players that are going to be part of the team this year. A lot of good youngsters. We know Damian Brunner's going to be there. He'll be one of their top forwards. But also guys like Nino Niederreiter, he should make the team. And Sven Berchi, he should also make the team. These are youngsters that are really coming along nicely. And there's just a lot of players now coming out of Switzerland and really establishing themselves into legitimate National Hockey League players and really taking the mantle. So Switzerland, they are really an interesting story. And then on defense, they're pretty good on defense, actually. They got some guys who can really shoot the puck. Mark Streit of the Philadelphia Flyers, he could be their most prominent player. Luca Spiza, an Italian-born Swiss, he'll be there. Yannick Weber of the Vancouver Canucks, he will be there. So there's just a lot of good talent on Team Switzerland this year, here up front and on the blue line. However, where this team has really developed most of all has been in goal. In goal is where they have really established. We all know about Martin Gerber and how he became a solid goaltender in the NHL. He's no longer in the NHL, but he was a solid goaltender for a few years. So he was really just the start of it. Jonas Hiller is now really the main goaltender in that list. He will most likely be the starter for Switzerland in that tournament. Jonas Hiller of the Anaheim Ducks. He will definitely be there. But as far as their other goaltenders, I think a guy like Rito Barra, who brought Switzerland to the silver medal in the World's tournament, he will be there. And then that other kid, Nyfeller, he should be there too. He's gonna be a good goaltender in the NHL one day. So they're pretty much set in goal. Do they have the best goaltending in the tournament? No. Are they a medal team? Probably not. But they're getting there. They are slowly but surely developing nicely. And one of these days, they will qualify for a medal. It won't be this year, but it's going to come. It's going to happen. This Swiss team is going places. They have a couple of bronze medals on their resumes, 2 bronze medals, but they haven't been good since their second one. Now they're reestablishing themselves, and they're becoming better than ever. Swiss hockey is coming, folks. Don't underestimate the Swiss. They're really coming into their own. Anyway, continuing on, now let's talk about the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic, they are another country in that top group, and this is a team known for their playmaking abilities. They mostly have playmakers on this team, but the problem with this team is that they don't have a lot of snipers, a lot of shooters. They have too many passers and not enough goal scorers. That is what sets this team back a little bit. But they are still one of the top countries, and they still have a lot of players who we know are going to be there. One of the few snipers on that team who is surely going to be there is Milan Michalek of the Ottawa Senators. He will definitely be there. Jaromir Jagr in his final season in the NHL. He will most likely be there. Patrick Elias will be there. It's very possible that Martin Havlat will be there if he becomes healthy enough in time. So they do have some players that can really play the game. They really do. And don't underestimate the Czechs. They are surely candidates for medals. Remembering back in 1998, they won the gold. So, they do have some good players on this team, and they have some others other than the mentioned names. Yuri Tulusti, who had a breakout year last year for the Carolina Hurricanes, he could be there if he continues down that path. Thomas Fleischmann, who's pretty much the speedster on that team, he'll be there. Thomas Plekanec will be there. David Krejci will be there. Radim Verbata will be there. So they have some good forwards. They really do. They have some forwards that can really play. On defense, that could be a bit of a concern. They really don't have a legitimate offensive defenseman anymore. Thomas Cabriolet is past his prime, and Marek Zidlitsky is past his prime. So those would be the two top offensive defensemen on this team. Philip Kuba as well. But those guys, even if they do go to the tournament, they're not going to be good anymore. They're not that good anymore. Marek Zidlitsky will be there, but he's not going to be there as he's not the same player he used to be. Michael Roosevelt will be there. Philip Kuba will probably be there. Jan Hayda will probably be there, and Rostislav Klesla will probably be there. So they have some defensemen that can play, but they're more of a defensive style. And actually, one other guy who will most likely be there is Zbigniew Michalek, the older brother of Milan, a shutdown defenseman. Probably might just be the best defenseman they're going to have in this tournament overall. So we'll see what happens. They don't have but that's the real big concern for the Czechs. They don't have a true power play quarterback, and that's a big problem. And in goal, that's also another bit of a concern. We don't know who's going to be the starter. My best guess is that it'll probably be Andrei Pavlik. But they also have Thomas Vokoun, who will most likely be there. And he's always good in the Olympics, regardless of how he plays at the NHL level. He's always good in the Olympics. In the Olympics, he really turns his game up to another level. It really showed in the Worlds a few years ago when they beat Russia for the gold medal. Thomas Vokoun was the star in that game. Michael Neuvirth will also probably be there. So who knows which one of these guys will be the starters, but it's not a great goaltending tandem overall. I personally think it'll be either Pavlik or Vokoun, but we'll see. They don't have a great goaltending tandem, and it is because of their mediocre goaltending tandem and their mediocre defense that they will not be a medal team. Czech Republic has actually been on somewhat of a decline in the recent years. Their offense is set. They are good offensively, but defensively and in goal, they're really inconsistent. They've been on a bit of a decline lately. The Czechs really need to take over at some point. And maybe a future player like Thomas Hertl of the San Jose Sharks or Martin Frk of the Detroit Red Wings, one of those two, could really be the next era of the Czechs. So hopefully both of those guys will be in the tournament someday. And then last but not least, the big team of Group C, Team Sweden. Sweden, oh boy, they are really the team to talk about here, folks. This is a team with an absolutely set everything. They are set in every single area of their team, and this is a team, like the Czech Republic, they are known for their playmaking abilities. But the difference between them and the Czech Republic, what sets them apart, is their ability to read each other. The Swedes know where each other is going. They know where the other is going, and they can read passes so perfectly. They are one of the most devastating countries year in and year out. And though I did not predict them for a medal, that does not mean they do not have the potential. They absolutely have the potential to knock any one of the three medal teams I predicted, Canada, Russia, or the U.S., out of a medal spot. Their offense, now this is really the downside for Sweden. Their guys are getting much older now. So age could definitely be the killer for Sweden, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. They have Henrik Zetterberg, Nicholas Backstrom, Henrik and Daniel Sedin, Johan Franzen, Louis Eriksson, Alexander Steen, Daniel Alfredsson, he'll be there most likely. We'll have Carl Hagel in there. He'll be a new face. Patrick Berglund. They have a lot of guys up front. Their offense is stacked. And then on defense, even on defense, and actually that's the thing, where Canada has the best offense in the tournament and where Finland has the best goaltending in the tournament, Sweden might just have the best defense in the whole tournament. And their defense did take a little bit of a hit, unfortunately. Alexander Edler will be out for the first few games of the tournament. He still has to serve the remainder of a long-term suspension for a knee-on-knee with Eric Stahl at the Worlds. He was suspended by the IIHF, and he has to continue to serve that suspension. So that could be a big loss on their defense, but if Sweden makes it far enough for him to come back, he'll be a big contributor, Alexander Edler. Also, Nicholas Kronwall, he'll definitely be there. Victor Hedman will be there. Tobias Enstrom could be there. And Erik Karlsson will most likely be their quarterback on the power play. He'll most definitely be there, and he'll be their top performer. But now the question will be, who would replace Edler if he's not going to play? And don't be surprised if Sweden actually cuts him out of the roster because of his suspension. Who would play in that case? Well, maybe a youngster like Jonas Brodin, if he doesn't suffer from the sophomore jinx, he could maybe play. Or a guy like Nicholas Chalmerson, well, he'll probably be there anyway as one of their top shutdown defensemen. Maybe a guy like Johnny Oduya, who had a breakout playoff with the Chicago Blackhawks last year, so he could play. Their options on defense are absolutely open. They have a lot of options on defense. And then you got in goal for Sweden. We know in goal, they have the greatest goaltender in the world right now, Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers. He is without a doubt the greatest goaltender in the world as of right now. And he will definitely be the starter. Was basically the reason why they won the gold medal in 2006 in his rookie year. But now you got to ask yourself, who else is going to be there in goal for them? Well, most likely Victor Fast of the Anaheim Ducks, who spent most of his time in Finland, but is a Swedish goaltender. He'll probably be there. And then the third goaltender, you got to ask yourself, who's going to be the third guy? It could definitely be Anders Lindback. It could definitely be Jacob Markstrom, and it could definitely be Jonas Enroth. It's going to be one of those three. But we know Henrik Lundqvist and Victor Foss will definitely be there. Overall, is Sweden a medal team? As I said before, I predicted Canada for gold, Russia for silver, and the United States of America for bronze. For Sweden, because of that, Sweden has to be singled out. However, like Finland, never knock them out. Finland is good, and they could definitely win a medal, but Sweden is 10 times better. Sweden, never, ever, ever underestimate the Swedes by any means. They have proved that. They are almost as good as the Russians or the Canadians. They are almost as good, and they could potentially be better than the U.S. So, Sweden, they're all set. They have a medal team. They really do. Though I don't predict them to win a medal, don't take my word for it when it comes to Sweden, because they definitely have the potential. Okie dokie, guys. That'll do it for episode 43 of Hockey on the Spot. There will be no episode of Hockey on the Spot tomorrow. Tomorrow is Yom Kippur, a Jewish holiday, so I will not be doing a video tomorrow. But the preseason starts tomorrow. Hockey is back. Woohoo! So be sure to catch the first few preseason games tomorrow. And when we come back on the 15th, which is a Sunday, each and every video pretty much will be for the rest of the time, for as long as the preseason and regular season are going, will be all the scores around the league, updates, and when we get to the regular season, this day in hockey history. So definitely looking forward to that. So until then, this has been Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. See you guys on Sunday. Thank you and have a great day.